Welcome back to the Wallace branch, and today we're turning to the town of Kellogg, Idaho, one of the two largest and most complex areas of the map. I'm starting by pasting in some big areas. In this case, I'm pasting in the entire town layout of Smelterville, and Smelterville is itself just made up of blocks from Pinehurst and then from Wallace. Then after pasting in this huge area and getting it all lined up very carefully and making sure that it's settled on the ground, then the next step is painting in textures, deleting some extraneous items like the tracks, outlying foliage or farms. You can see that I pasted a huge grid area on each side of the river and then basically spent some time connecting the two halves up. I left space along the tracks for another section that will have triangular blocks. And then also I left a space on the south side of the tracks as well. Here I'm making sure that I put the depot down in the right spot and get the bridge in the right spot. And in case you're wondering why the depot is translucent, it's because I forgot to edit the texture.txt file to delete the alpha line. And then I also forgot to look at the asset in the viewer as a test. And the reason I forgot is because I created this depot a long time ago. I did test it at that time, it was working. And then right before this episode, I decided to resave it with a different texture, and otherwise I didn't make any changes, so I knew that there weren't any errors. I didn't think of looking at it again. The depot is actually based on the real depot that's still standing in Kellogg today, whereas the other depots on this route, aside from Wallace, they're mostly variations on this one. I also created the freight depot based on the one that Kellogg has, and then I used it in several other towns on the layout, such as Borgia. The track layout for Kellogg I feel pretty confident about because of the Sanborn maps. The maps almost cover the whole railroad layout down to the Bunker Hill Sullivan concentrator, but not quite down to the smelter for some reason, and then there's a bit of a gap between the depot and the Bunker Hill Sullivan concentrator. I don't know why the Sanborn maps didn't cover all that area, but they don't. And the maps don't show a very substantial yard for Kellogg. It's more like a few spurs here and there and some sidings, but no yard is visible on those maps. Now, heading east, I'm going to make a couple of spur tracks for a junkyard. Over here on this side, I pasted down some mobile homes, and there really is a mobile home area in this little bend in the valley. And then I'm adding the textures and a little bit of extra detail here and there, realigning things, adding the road. Then in the corner here, I'm going to put down a small highway maintenance facility. I tried the facility with some of the dirt piles that might be packaged, but they didn't look as nice in the end as the self-made piles with HD terrain. So I decided to go in that direction instead, as you'll see. You can also see that I've created a few different sand textures for the route, and I made room for them in my quota of 16 textures. In this building, you can see it has a lot of garage doors on the back side. Nothing I can do about that. So here I'm finding some junkyard assets. I'm putting them down in creative ways. When I first put down this fence, it seemed like there was just no way that I could fill up this whole space with junk. You really can create some unique textures just by mixing and matching some different ones in HD. I thought from the beginning it would look a little bit more realistic if there are different parts of the junkyard for different things, like one part for tires, one part for railroad scrap. I did leave room for one junkyard ground texture as well. Copying and pasting the initial junk pile, that proved very useful. At the end, applying a dark color makes an incredible difference for the realism. I figure that this Quonset hut is maybe for a bit more high-value junk, and then yes, even a junkyard needs some trash bins. Herbie the Love Bug is on the DLS, so I tried to think of ways to use it. I found out about a movie from 2005 called Herbie Fully Loaded, where Herbie is in a junkyard called Crazy Dave's. And I think I only saw the 1960 Herbie movies when I was a kid, and that was a children's matinee for a quarter. I don't remember really anything about them other than they were definitely kids' movies. So anyway, there's Crazy Dave's sign. Now back to Kellogg and putting down the bridge between the northern side of town and the railroad depot. This method with the HC terrain and center line spline is a good way to make steady slopes for the roads. The part of town on the north side of the river, right across from the tracks, is an interesting location where this odd building, which was formerly the Miner's Hat Cafe and drive-through, it's still located there. Right next door to that, I put this other restaurant, which is called Zany's, which has a cool Googie style sign out front. And I changed that location to put it here by the Miner's Hat so that it's more visible from the tracks. Here I'm getting the downtown streets approximately aligned, and it's especially difficult when you're dealing with the UTM tiles because there basically is absolutely no way to click on and select anything other than the UTM tiles when they're visible. So you just have to hide them whenever you're placing stuff or moving stuff. I used HD textures to make this baseball diamond, and I really like how it ended up coming out. The colors could pop a little bit more, but then the issue again is the old problem of the 16 texture limit. Using the color layer wouldn't work here at all because if I make it any greener, that will just bleed across a large area. An alternative would be to make a totally new asset, but I didn't feel like doing that. Now for the downtown, I'm putting in a few of the Dave Snow assets as well as some of my own assets from Wallace. And it's once again kind of amazing how many assets are needed to fill this relatively small area of downtown. For the streets, I just finished them off camera. I got the assets all aligned, and then I decided I would come back and do the detailing around the downtown a little bit later. One of the buildings here is the Bunker Hill and Sullivan Mining and Concentrating Company YMCA building. It's one of the most distinctive brick buildings in town. And I did mine with a PBR brick texture. It's one of the first that I did. And then I actually did put mesh 3D letters on top to spell out Bunker Hill and Sullivan. So I'm really modeling the real version in quite a bit of detail. Unfortunately, with the way that shadows happen in Trainz, the lettering doesn't look that great. I might have to come back to this and try to do it as a part of the normal map instead of having them actually as part of the mesh, just to see if that might look a little bit better. But I have to say, what a gorgeous building. It really conveys the message that this is one of the most powerful companies in town, or make that the most powerful company in town. According to Wikipedia, in 1907, the Bunker Hill Company built a hospital and a YMCA building that included a gymnasium, swimming pool, and bowling alley. They paid for a YMCA baseball diamond and a playground in 1916. According to waymarking.com, it was placed in town in order to increase its assessed valuation and to render it readily accessible to the townspeople. And according to a report in the Shoshone News Press this June 2024, the building is in such poor shape currently that it's, quote, not salvageable, although there are still some efforts to preserve it. The area where the schools are up here, it's an interesting area, but it's pretty far from the tracks. Nevertheless, I decided to put in some detail work, but not create a new school asset. Instead, I just used this glass office building as the high school. And then I added the same football field which I already used in Silverton. I needed to delete some of the pasted in city blocks. Just lowering the football field below the ground level means that you can color the field however you want it. You just are saving the goalposts and using the lines on the object for the guide. True, the version that I've created here is missing the numbers, but I think it conveys the idea. Okay, I finished the parking lot for the school now, and I'm jumping ahead to this other area right next door. The modern town of Kellogg has essentially transformed itself from its industrial past to one focused more on tourism and especially on skiing. There's this major resort located right in town on this flat area, and that's actually where the cable car takes you to the top of the mountain. This is all right next to where the Bunker Hill and Sullivan concentrator was formerly located. So once I put that in, it's going to make a rather jarring contrast to have them both on the layout right next to each other. But the alternative was to make this area more of a swampy and polluted wetland, which I didn't really feel like that I wanted that. So I like creating different scenes, and also the resort assets that I believe are all from the Moffat Tunnel route. They're going to be really nice to use them to fill in a large urban area and make Kellogg more important, more impressive. Of course, there is not a cable car asset that would realistically connect this to the mountain. Jumping ahead a bit, now I'm trying to fill in a little bit more of the industrial space by the tracks. You can see that I already did a little bit of that, adding a few generic warehouse buildings on this side and some houses. Okay, now I'm coming back to the high school and I'm bringing a cool little asset, which is the mascot of the team for the end zone. I only found a couple of ski lift assets on the download station, and both of them I think are a bit older. I don't plan to make this a winter route, not for now anyway, so I didn't think it was worth trying to create a new asset. I ended up using both the ski lift assets on the route, and this one, which has the fixed slope, it has a cool boarding area, and it seemed a nice type of facility for the city scene. It's a bit ugly to watch, but I had to significantly terraform the mountain to make the pylons visible. So anyway, this is hardly a prototypical portrayal of the ski resort, but for me at least, it gets the idea across, and besides, it wouldn't represent the 1970s or the 1950s to have a big cable car going over the tracks anyway. Next, I'm coming back and adding a few more details. First, I'm adding another reference to the modern classic film, The Last Picture Show. The poster here, Cream the Eagles, was from the high school basketball team. Somehow the banner makes it more convincing as a school, by the way, along with the school buses, obviously. Then I'm moving ahead to this historic roadside history marker about the Jackass that founded Kellogg. For the route, I looked up every roadside history marker, and I think I included all of them, both the ones in Montana and the ones in Idaho. My only requirement was that they are this type that is designed to be read from inside your car, so you don't even have to get out of your car. In my route, drivers are absolutely fascinated, and every historical marker is just crowded with people in cars, people reading, people picnicking, people just parking. I also found a webpage that listed 10 ways to know if you're really from Kellogg. And one of the 10 ways was remembering back in the days when people would line up outside the Rena Theater for new releases. So I created a quick and dirty Rena Theater based on just 2 photos that I managed to find online. And then I just used the same model from the Wallace Grand Theater with different textures, different colors. Made some slight modifications to the front to add the Rena Theater logo. I also added the other theater that used to be in downtown, which was the Liberty Theater. and this is another modified asset from Wallace. The movies listed on the marquees are both films that were shown at the Royal Theater in the last picture show. I don't think I've seen either of these films, but that's something I'm going to have to fix. And there we have it, a major town completed. But hold on just a second. Kellogg still needs the huge Bunker Hill and Sullivan concentrator complex, and a lead smelter, and a zinc plant. So there's still plenty more to come, and unlike some of the industry on the map so far, these are going to be extremely prototypical and accurate, and they will become some of the route's true highlights. So, like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time on the Wallace Branch.